Pregnancy is supposed to be a time of hope and new beginnings, but in horror movies, it often becomes a source of terror, paranoia, and supernatural evil. From satanic cults to demonic offspring, these films tap into primal fears about motherhood, the unknown, and the loss of control over your own body. Today we're breaking down 8 horror movies where a supernatural pregnancy is at the heart of the story. Each of these films explores what happens when the miracle of life turns into a nightmare. If you've ever wondered what it would be like to carry something truly monstrous, this is the definitive guide to supernatural pregnancy horror. 1. Rosemary's Baby, 1968. Rosemary's Baby is the gold standard for supernatural pregnancy horror. Directed by Roman Polanski and based on Ira Levin's novel, the film follows Rosemary Woodhouse, a young woman who moves into a New York apartment with her husband, Guy. After befriending their eccentric neighbors, the Castavets, Rosemary becomes pregnant under mysterious circumstances. As her pregnancy progresses, Rosemary experiences severe pain, paranoia, and disturbing dreams. She suspects that her neighbors, and even her husband, are part of a conspiracy to harm her unborn child. The truth is even more horrifying. The Castavets are members of a satanic cult, and Rosemary has been chosen to give birth to the Antichrist. The film's horror comes from the slow, psychological unraveling of Rosemary's world. The cult's manipulation is subtle and insidious, using charm, gaslighting, and social pressure to isolate her. The pregnancy itself becomes a source of terror, as Rosemary realizes she has no control over her own body or fate. Rosemary's Baby is a masterclass in paranoia and psychological horror, using the fear of pregnancy and motherhood as a metaphor for loss of autonomy and the dangers of blind trust. The film's final reveal, that Rosemary's Baby is the son of Satan, remains one of the most chilling moments in horror history. 2. The Omen, 1976. The Omen is a supernatural horror classic that explores the idea of a cursed birth and the arrival of the Antichrist. The film follows Robert Thorne, an American diplomat whose wife Catherine gives birth to a child who dies shortly after delivery. Unbeknownst to Catherine, Robert secretly adopts another newborn whose mother died in childbirth. As Damien grows, strange and deadly events begin to occur around him. Animals react violently, people die in bizarre accidents, and a mysterious priest warns Robert that his son is the Antichrist. The film's horror comes from the gradual realization that Damien's birth was orchestrated by a satanic conspiracy, and that his very existence is a supernatural threat to the world. The Omen uses the concept of a supernatural pregnancy to explore themes of fate, prophecy, and the battle between good and evil. Damien's origins are shrouded in mystery, and the film suggests that his birth was the result of dark rituals and manipulation by unseen forces. The Omen's legacy is its ability to turn the innocence of childhood into a source of terror, and to make the idea of a cursed family bloodline central to the horror. 3. Inside, à l'intérieur, 2007. Inside is a French horror film that takes the concept of a supernatural pregnancy in a more visceral and brutal direction. The story follows Sarah, a pregnant woman who is targeted by a mysterious intruder on Christmas Eve. The woman, known only as La Femme, is determined to take Sarah's unborn child by any means necessary. While Inside is primarily a home invasion film, it's steeped in supernatural overtones. La Femme's obsession with Sarah's pregnancy is driven by her own tragic loss, and her relentless pursuit takes on an almost otherworldly quality. The violence is graphic and unflinching, turning the act of childbirth into a literal battle for survival. The film's horror comes from the vulnerability of pregnancy and the fear of losing control over one's own body. Sarah's isolation, the relentless attacks, and the sense that something unnatural is driving La Femme's actions make Inside a standout in the supernatural pregnancy subgenre. Inside is not for the faint of heart, but its exploration of maternal fear and the lengths a mother will go to protect her child makes it a powerful and disturbing entry in horror cinema. 4. The Unborn, 2009. The Unborn is a supernatural horror film that blends Jewish folklore with modern scares. The story follows Casey, a young woman haunted by terrifying visions and nightmares. She discovers that she is the product of a supernatural curse that began with her grandmother's experiences in a Nazi concentration camp. The film's central monster is a Dybbuk, a malicious spirit from Jewish mythology that seeks to be reborn in the world of the living. The Dybbuk targets Casey, attempting to possess her unborn twin and use her as a vessel for its return. The unborn's horror comes from the idea that evil can be passed down through generations, and that the sins of the past can haunt the present. The film uses pregnancy as a metaphor for vulnerability and the fear of bringing something evil into the world. The unborn stands out for its use of Jewish folklore, including exorcism rituals and the concept of the Dybbuk. The film's supernatural elements are rooted in real cultural beliefs, giving the horror an added layer of authenticity. 5. Prevenge, 2016. Prevenge is a British black comedy horror film that puts a unique spin on the supernatural pregnancy trope. The story follows Ruth, a pregnant woman who believes her unborn child is compelling her to commit a series of murders. The voice of her fetus urges her to seek revenge on those she blames for her partner's death. While Prevenge is more psychological than supernatural, the film blurs the line between reality and delusion. Ruth's actions are driven by the belief that her pregnancy has given her a supernatural connection to her unborn child, who communicates with her and directs her actions. The film's horror comes from the isolation and paranoia of pregnancy, as well as the fear of losing control over one's mind and body. Prevenge uses dark humor and surreal imagery to explore the anxieties of impending motherhood and the idea that pregnancy can be both a blessing and a curse. Prevenge is a standout for its originality and its willingness to tackle taboo subjects with wit and brutality. 6. Antichrist, 2009. Antichrist is a psychological horror film directed by Lars von Trier, known for its disturbing imagery and exploration of grief, guilt, and the supernatural. The story follows a couple who retreat to a remote cabin after the accidental death of their child. As they try to cope with their loss, they are plagued by increasingly bizarre and violent events. While Antichrist is not about a supernatural pregnancy in the traditional sense, the film is steeped in themes of fertility, nature, and the destructive power of motherhood. The couple's grief manifests as supernatural occurrences, including talking animals, hallucinations, and ritualistic violence. The film's horror comes from its unflinching portrayal of psychological breakdown and the idea that nature itself can be a malevolent force. The woman's descent into madness is linked to her role as a mother, and the film suggests that the line between creation and destruction is razor thin. Antichrist is a challenging and controversial film, but its exploration of the dark side of motherhood and the supernatural consequences of grief make it a unique entry in the genre. 7. Devil's Due, 2014. Devil's Due is a found-footage horror film that follows a newlywed couple, Zach and Samantha, as they experience a series of strange events after their honeymoon. Samantha becomes pregnant under mysterious circumstances, and the couple soon realizes that her pregnancy is anything but normal. As the pregnancy progresses, Samantha exhibits supernatural abilities, violent mood swings, and disturbing behavior. The couple is stalked by a group of strangers who seem to be orchestrating the pregnancy for their own sinister purposes. The film's horror comes from the idea that Samantha's child is the result of a supernatural ritual, and that she is carrying the offspring of a demonic entity. The pregnancy is marked by unexplained phenomena, including animal attacks, telekinesis, and physical transformations. Devil's Due taps into fears about loss of control, bodily autonomy, and the possibility that evil can be born into the world through unsuspecting parents. The film's found-footage style adds to the sense of realism and immediacy, making the horror feel all the more personal. 8. The Brood, 1979. The Brood is a body horror film directed by David Cronenberg, known for its disturbing exploration of trauma, rage, and the supernatural. The story follows Frank Carveth, who discovers that his estranged wife Nola is undergoing experimental psychotherapy at a remote institute. Nola's therapy causes her to externalize her rage, resulting in the supernatural birth of deformed, murderous children known as the Brood. These creatures are physically connected to Nola and act out her suppressed anger, attacking anyone she perceives as a threat. The Brood's horror comes from the idea that emotional trauma can manifest physically, and that motherhood can be both creative and destructive. the film's depiction of supernatural pregnancy is both literal and metaphorical, using body horror to explore the consequences of repressed emotions. Cronenberg's film is a landmark in the genre, blending psychological horror with supernatural elements to create a story that is as thought-provoking as it is terrifying. These 8 films prove that pregnancy can be just as terrifying as any haunted house or monster. Whether it's a satanic cult, a vengeful spirit, or a curse passed down through generations, the horror of supernatural pregnancy taps into our deepest fears about the unknown, the uncontrollable, and the power of creation itself. What makes these movies so effective is their ability to turn the most intimate and hopeful experience into a source of dread. The next time you see a horror movie about pregnancy, remember that in this genre, the miracle of life can quickly become a nightmare. Which supernatural pregnancy horror movie do you find the most disturbing? Let me know in the comments and subscribe for more horror content that explores the darkest corners of family, fate, and the supernatural.